Hey guys, welcome to Surf and Show. I'm Noel Salas, and today's surfboard review is on the Too Happy by Channel Island Surfboards. Now I've got two custom boards. They're both PU poly. I have a 5.7 coming in at 26.5 liters, and then I have a 5.8 coming in at 26.2 liters. I'm 5'9" and 165 pounds. Now we caught up with Britt Merrick for him to break down the Too Happy, talk to us about the changes from the original Happy. I think you guys are gonna like this. Sit back, get your favorite drink, enjoy the show. The original Happy came out and it had a good amount of tail rocker. It was a bit demanding.
Yep.
Like, you need to be on your game to surf that and have an excellent experience with that board. And that's pretty true to say about most high performance shortboards from my perspective.
Let's just talk about the difference between the Too Happy and the Happy.
Okay.
Because you nailed it with the Happy. The Happy was kind of meant to be a demanding high performance shortboard.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to a Rook, right?
Right,
The Rook
right.
15, like so much of our pro team and great surfers ride a Rook 15. Most normal people don't.
Right.
So the Happy was a bit more of a step toward normality from something like the Rook, but it was still pretty demanding.
Sure.
And part of that was the narrow tail and the thin tail and the extreme rocker out the back.
Right.
So what I wanted to do with the Too Happy was take some of the characteristics of the Happy, but make it much more accessible. Right. That was the goal. And I think the Happy's biggest liabilities were the narrow thin tail and the ultra low entry rocker.
Right.
So for some guys, there just wasn't enough in the tail. It was
Right.
just too finicky. And for other guys, there just wasn't enough curve in the front. It didn't fit in the pocket.
Right.
So the first thing I did was address those two liabilities. I added more entry rocker on the Too Happy, and I added more tail area. I did that in both the thickness and the width. So it's much straighter behind the hips than most CI shortboards, right? And so we've got a wider tail block. It's thicker and more square back there, and it's got less tuck behind the fins. So what I'm trying to do is create a shortboard that's got a real on top of the water sort of feel. And with the on top of the water sort of feel, then you're gonna get a board that's skatey and easy, like this.
Right.
Whereas the Happy was kind of always in the water. And it wasn't so much one of these, it was more always driving off the tail and having to keep that going, having to work hard for it. So here I'm trying to create a board that's on top of the water, skatey, and really easy to ride. And that's the first thing that you're going to notice with the Too Happy.
Sure.
Another thing that I did was dramatically increase the double concave, which also helps with that on top of the water feel. But it still has quite a bit of rocker out the tail. So it fits in the pocket, it's super high performance, but it's way easier to ride. It's meant to be a very accessible high performance shortboard.
Stoked to have Britt on the show. It's nice to hear from the shapers, talk about their designs, and Britt talking about the changes from the Too Happy and the Happy. Now, I ordered both these boards custom because I like them a little bit shorter, so I'll ride them more often. Remember, I live in Southern California. Waves are roughly head high and below 95% of the time. And if I were to get the Too Happy stock to hit my leader range, I'm in that 5'9", 5'10" in length. Think about a wave that's roughly head high. I want this board to fit in that tight pocket. Now, if I had the 5'10", I would have to wait for the waves to get bigger, more like 5 foot and up. Why? I want to utilize that rail line to my advantage. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the changes Britt was talking about. He was talking about on the Too Happy, he added some more surface area and width, right? And just making it a little bit wider gives it more surface area, coupled with going a little bit deeper on the bottom contours, the single to double, creating that lift he's talking about. And then he also increased the tail thickness. So making those changes to get the board more up on top of the water is something that I could feel. This was real. Now, I really felt it when I was riding the 5.7. I want you guys to remember this. 5.7 and 5.8. They're both the same width, 18 and 7/8. But the 5.7 is 2 3/8 thick, and it has a bit of a fuller rail. Now, when we talk about the board sitting up on top of the water and making it easier to surf, it is smooth rail to rail, so it's got good flow, and it's carrying more speed. But when I got into waves that were overhead and bigger, that's when I felt like 2 3/8 thickness with a fuller rail was a little bit too on top of the water for me. And I found myself feeling like, could the board skip out? And you guys talk to me about this all the time, ordering customs. how short can we go before we start messing with the design. And I feel like the 5.7 in smaller surf, let's say a little bit overhead and smaller, it fit in the pocket, it felt great. It felt like it was holding good speed and transitioning from rail to rail really well, better than the original Happy. Now, getting on the 5.8, coming in at 2 5/16, that little less foam on the rail right here, when the waves got bigger, I could get the board to settle down and hold it on rail longer compared to the 5.7, and I was getting more comfortable. So if you're gonna go custom on your 2 Happy, you gotta watch on how thick you make the rail. This board does sit on top. It is a bit more user-friendly compared to the original Happy, and I really felt like at 2 5/16 thick, if you look at the 510, that's how thick the 510 is, 2 5/16. So I'm not messing too much with the custom and thickness. The board had good glide because it has some foam up under the chest here, and I felt like it was paddling well, and overall, it's definitely quicker compared to the Happy. Now I want to talk about the fins I chose. Britt mentioned the 2 Happy having a good amount of exit rocker. And when you have rocker, it makes the board loose, and when I put it on rail, it also gives me the hold and traction I need off the bottom and through big rail turns. So I always try and couple boards like this with a fin that has a good amount of rake. Remember, that rake really tones the board down a bit, and when I put the board on rail and it starts to settle, it offers resistance, I'll push, and that will give me more speed or drive through my turns. Now, you guys are gonna ask me, what fins do I recommend? So I like the large Almeric fin. This is the medium. These both have a good amount of rake. So if you have these will go great in the 2 Happy. Now I wanna talk about my fin that I designed because it was kind of inspired by these fins. Just the rake that I've been talking about that gives you the drive, and I've been riding a large fin for years. I like the large base. That's gonna give me maximum pushback from the fin. So as it resists me, I'm gonna push harder into my turn and generate more speed. Now, what I like about the medium fin is there's less fin in the water, and that's gonna keep the board feeling loose and responsive with less drag. So what I did on the Momentum Series rake template, which is this fin here, is I took what I like about the large fin with the large base, and then I took medium fin depth. I want you to think about that. By going with medium fin depth, the board's gonna stay loose and it's gonna have less drag. And I think the best way for me to explain that is when I stand up and the board's being ultra responsive, I can put it where I want in the wave quicker, as opposed to maybe a fin that had more fin depth in the water. It might feel a little tighter and it take like a split second longer to get where I want to go on the wave. So by hybridizing the wide base from a large fin, that's gonna maximize drive and hold, and then taking the medium fin depth, it's basically my interpretation of fast and loose with the large base for maximum drive. So let's look at some waves together. This is the 5.7. I thought we'd look at it on some smaller waves. You can see rail to rail, real smooth. No hesitation from turn to turn, so the board's got good flow. This ride's nice, right into a bottom turn. Good little snap right there. I really like how the board is sitting on top of the water and it's carrying good speed and easy to surf in these smaller waves. You can see connecting the dots good. Board's got great flow. So here's the 5.8 and some bigger waves. Nice first turn, feeling good off the bottom, good control. One of the things I noticed is the board settling down on rail. Right here, the wave has a little chop or wonk to it, and it settled down nicely, able to get 3 solid turns. Now this last wave's a bit bigger, feeling good off the bottom. This is when the board started to shine, able to put the board on rail and hold it there, feeling great in bigger waves. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's review on the Too Happy by CI surfboards. And I highly recommend it for that upper end intermediate all the way to pro level surfers, best in 3 to 6 foot plus surf. Don't be afraid to mess with the tail. It'll go good in swallow, round tail, and round pin. Special shout out thanks to Britt Merrick for joining us on the show and the folks at CI for sending these boards down for review. Look, if you like the show, subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and give us a thumbs up if you like our content. Until next time, we'll see you in the water. Bye-bye.